John Hussey?
Yes.
Jim Durorian? Jim LaQueer?
Here.
Ann LaQueer?
Yep.
Dalton Wegman?
Present.
Jennifer Eaton?
Present.
And Karen Hill is here. Topics unanticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance. I don't believe we have any. Chair's report. I don't really have one. Agent's report.
I'll just go through that as we proceed.
Okay. 1.6, approval of the minutes. Everybody had those emailed to you?
Yep.
So may I get a motion to approve and release the meeting minutes for November 12th, 2020?
So noted.
Second.
Give a second.
John second.
Oh, sorry. Didn't hear that. John Hussey, are you in favor?
Aye.
John Hussey.
Yes. In favor.
Okay. Jim LaQueer?
Yes, in favor.
Ann LaQueer?
Yes.
Dalton Wegman?
Yes.
Jennifer Eaton?
Yes.
And Karen Hill, yes. 6 times our appointment. Do we want to jump down to 3.1 since we're ahead of schedule for a change?
Sure.
Do we have anything on this, Dave? 3.1?
Oh, thank you. Oh, so much paper here. No, we don't. We have not heard back from the owner of the property. I would suggest strongly that we give this a couple of weeks. The area is stabilized quite well. Nothing's going to happen to it between now and the time we get to this. So that's what I strongly suggest.
Okay. Well, let's try 3.2. Excuse me. The Campbell Farm conservation restriction, we got the final wording on the revising. We all got that email, did we not?
Yep.
So, any questions on this one?
Can you refresh my memory on this?
This is the Campbell Farm, which is up on North End Road. We talked about it at our last meeting. The final draft wasn't done yet. The Conservation Commission is going to hold the conservation restriction on the property on the 50 acres. And the owners are still going to hold the land, are still going to own the land, but we're going to hold the conservation restriction on it.
Yes, okay. That was the great deal from last meeting.
Yes, yep. Any other questions?
I have a couple questions, actually, Karen. Just about the stewardship monitoring of the conservation. I understand that we're the agency responsible for that?
Yep.
Okay. So I had mentioned at the last meeting, possibly getting signage as soon as possible. And I believe Dave was the one that said that can, that the restriction happens as soon as it's signed off.
No, that's not correct. No, what you're looking at and what you have in front of you is the final revision. So there's still multiple processes that it has to go through, including going before the Board of Selectmen for their ultimate approval. In between now and then, though, I can add that, or I'm sorry, I can suggest that be added. And I don't see a problem with it out of ordinary circumstances.
A requirement, but I just think just to give time, I just feel like with COVID and people are going to be having more free time on their hands, I feel like the area could be used for ATVs and snowmobiles. If people have been already established, going there and doing that. If we could do that. And then is there going to be at any point in the several other steps in that process, will the Conservation Commission and the Board of Selectmen have an opportunity to walk the property to establish the BDR?
Well, that's an interesting question. Dave?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch, what was the acronym you used?
The BDR, the Baseline Development Report.
Oh yeah, we have, the baseline report was done some time ago. And the commission at the last hearing, which I believe was the 12th of November, they in principle agreed to the conservation restriction. And to answer your first question about signage, I'll take that back as a recommendation from the commission to be added. And as far as the baseline report, that has already been done. That had been done as a part of the process in order to get us to the point where we are now.
Right.
And the baseline report was submitted to the commission prior to our last hearing. Now, to have to walk the property, we do not control that until it goes through its process, its full process. And I expect that would probably take at least another, maybe 6 months. But in between now and then, the commission can certainly reach out to the property owner and ask them whether or not the commission or any other interested parties would take a walk on the property and just examine what it is that we're getting.
Okay.
If I can make a comment?
Yep.
Okay, don't ever expect the selectmen to follow us through because we're the responsible party to report to the selectmen.
Ultimately, yeah, because we have the responsibility of monitoring and providing the stewardship as such as we proceed with this new responsibility.
Okay.
That do it?
Yep. I just want to make sure that if we're in charge of monitoring this, I want to make sure that there's a system in place that we know exactly what we're monitoring, because I have not been out there.
Yeah.
The engineer should be involved in the monitoring also. So it's not just going to be a responsibility of ours.
I don't think that's really the case. No, the engineer.
I see that in the handbook. I'm sorry, but.
The engineer ostensibly is really out of the picture once the whole process is completed. The burden lies on the commission in order to provide stewardship. Okay.
Any other questions?
I'm good for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, can I get a motion to, yeah, what do I want? To approve the final revised wording and what do I want?
Determine if a provision can be put in there for signage.
Put in a provision for signage.
You gotta stop him, Jim.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the final conservation restriction on Campbell Farm as long as we put in a provision for signage in that? And can I get a motion for that?
So noted.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded.
Who was that?
Dalton.
Thank you. John Hussey, are you in favor of holding this conservation restriction?
I am.
Jim LaQueer, are you in favor?
Yes.
Ann LaQueer, are you in
Yes.
favor? Dalton Wagner, are you in favor?
Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Eaton, are you in favor?
Yes. Thank you.
And Karen Hill is in favor of this. Fantastic. And it's 6:10. We have a hearing. 2.1, continuation notice of intent, DEP number 308-655 for Diane Silva, Iodice Family Trust. The applicant is Dushar Chairman Dillis for Diane Silva, 59 West Meadow Road. The proposed project is to restore historic wetlands and grades within the buffer zone to a 3-to-1 slope. Project is located in ACEC and NHESP estimated rare habitat. They're filing under the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw. And Stan Dillis is present.
I'm here.
Hey, Stan, how are you? If you don't mind, I just want to give a backdrop on what has been going on there or what has not been going on there. And if the commission could indulge me for 5 minutes, that'd be great. Is that all right?
That works for me.
Yep.
Terrific. All right, so most of you, if not all of you, know that this particular property has a very interesting and curious history, which I'm not going to go into in any substantial detail. I'm going to try to stick to the facts as they pertain to the opening of the hearing when it was originally presented to the commission back in spring of 19 in response to an NOI requested by Diane Silva and the Iodice Family Trust. The notice of intent is dated February 18th, 2019, formed by Ducharme and Dillis, and this pertains to 59 West Meadow Road, Townsend, Massachusetts, map 5, lot 4 in Middlesex County. The issue that has been ongoing out there has been a number of different things, and principally because of those issues that were brought to bear to the commission, called 2.5 years ago. We've been in the process of trying to rectify some of the problems under the Wetlands Protection Act as well as the local bylaw. And COVID got in the way, not that I'm going to use that as an excuse, but that got in the way of a lot of what we all have been trying to do with our lives and with our businesses. Stan was the consultant. Stan was hired to do a NOI and a wetlands delineation on a piece of this, which is minus 80 acres. The questionable area, as far as the local bylaw is concerned, in particular, is an isolated vegetated wetland. And I have some graphs and charts and all the goodies that I'm going to show in a few moments. I'm just giving you a backdrop on how we've gotten to this point. There have been a number of different family parties, or I'm sorry, individuals that have been involved in this process. Mr. Iodice, Diane Silva, and Ann Rogers, who now is in effect taking responsibility as such for the process that we're going through right now with them. When it was identified that there was a wetlands violation out there based on observations and the NOI that was presented to us, we went out there multiple times and we've done, on-site site visits. Gosh, probably 12 times we've been out there. I've been out there. The principal problems that have been occurring out there have been excavation and gravel removal over a period of time that has in effect eliminated potential habitat as it's defined under MESA, Massachusetts Endangered Species Act. And from there, NHESP gets involved. So NHESP is a state operation under the auspices of Mass Fish and Wildlife. It was determined some time ago that this particular piece of property, much of it, of the 80 acres, I'd say maybe 20 of it, plus or minus, is under NHE's auspices, so to speak, state auspices. And this area has been defined as a rare habitat, and potentially rare habitat. And in particular, Blanding's turtles and wood turtles have been are indicative of that particular kind of environment for nesting purposes in particular. Now, the applicant hired at the request or the demand of NHESP to do a reptile survey out there. And my recall is that the consultant that was hired to do that, not Stan, Daniel Wells, as a matter of fact, did not come back with anything hard and fast. I don't believe that he had really seen any activity out there from a nesting standpoint. And I don't recall any photographs that were taken by him. However, having said that, this is under NHESP regulatory authority as such. And under their umbrella, Mass Fish and Wildlife, they put together an order of conditions, which you all have a copy of, which was issued back in January 2000. And that order of conditions had to be supplied to the Registry of Deeds along with 4 or 5 other provisions on that particular outline, which I won't go into right now. And if one wants to know what they are, I'd be more than happy to tell them. So it's taken from January 20 up until a week ago for that order of conditions issued by NHESP to be registered with the Registry of Deeds. So we have confirmation that that particular piece of the puzzle has been completed. However, there are other parts of this that are still ongoing and have not been rectified. If you just give me a moment, I will get a couple of my notes if you don't mind. So part of the order had to do with not only the recordation of the order itself, which I just said was completed within the last week. Other parts of that order included a time of year restriction because we're dealing with wood turtles and blanding turtles in particular that are endangered or endangered. There's a time of year that work can go on out there. And that restoration work would have included the cleanup of the site. And I don't know whether or not any of you have ever looked at some of the overheads that I've sent you. If not, I'll be happy to share them with you in the future. And also, unfortunately, COVID got in the way. I have many, many photographs in the office going back decades that show the area in question. And basically, it was a trash dump, amongst many other things. It was also a pig farm way, way back. So the time of year restriction is part of the order. And again, that has to do with site prep, staging, regrading, and site cleanup. Erosion control and sedimentation barriers have to be set up. Compliance reporting has to be completed. And if there's an amendment that has to be made to the order, it's been requested that significant advance notice be given. So those 5 particular items are part of the order that has been registered this past week. Where we are, so that's NHESP. So we have 2 different bodies going. We've got the Conservation Commission with the isolated vegetated wetland, which I have plenty of diagrams and other information I'm going to share in a moment, and NHESP. So we have 2 different groups of people, or 2 different organizations out there that have mutual interests, for sure, but under separate and distinct jurisdictional responsibility. So the responsibility that we have, that you have, is the isolated vegetated piece that we're going to look at in a moment. Just give me a minute to catch my breath. Okay, so we have not received a cleanup and trash removal plan from the applicant, which ties not necessarily into what we're doing, but into what the building department is trying to do. And that's separate and distinct as well. They also are seeking to get a permit to do excavation work out there. It's an earth removal permit, a special permit, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I've already been quoted. So there are a couple of outstanding items that still have to be resolved with NHASP and not with the commission as such. Though the commission has been a good steward of overseeing what's going on out there as best they can by taking additional site visits out there. We were out there as recently as November 9. I believe 6 of us were out there. 1, 2, 3, 6 of us were out there. Stan was out there as well. No, Stan was out there today, as a matter of fact. I'm sorry, I refrained. That was wrong. We're back to the NOI. Let me just stop. So does everyone understand what I'm saying? Is there anything that you need, like a fill-in on, or if you don't have anything that's truly pertinent, I would appreciate it if you wait until I'm completed. However, I know I'll defer to you. Okay. The NOI, as I said, it was submitted to us in the spring of 19. It was prepared, completed, I should say, prepared and completed on February 19th. As a part of that NOI, which was referring to the isolated vegetated wetland, that was going to be, in effect, restored as best it could be using certain types of seed mixes and vegetation. Additionally, the sloping out there, as those that have been out there, there's significant issues with piles and piles of gravel and loam and other things. Some of it has been taken down. Much of it has been taken down, I think. So I just want to emphasize that right now we're concentrating on the notice of intent that was presented. And again, I repeat myself again, this isolated pieces. Which is 20,000 square feet. One of them is, and there's a historical wetland that's identified on there, which is just under 3,000 square feet. Now, keep in mind the activity that's been going on out there for many, many years. Excavation, gravel removal, earth movement, trash removal. It's if you go out there, it's basically a moonscape. Truly, and I'm not being critical. It's a really good habitat for any number of species. The wood turtle and the Blanding's turtle. It's a terrific songbird site as well. So what we have in front of us is the NOI, how we want to address the NOI going forward. Now, when we met on July 10th of 19, following the spring after it was originally heard, the NOI, the commission decided that we would not, or they would not, proceed with an order of conditions separate and distinct from what NHESP had put together, the 5 items that I had just said, the recordation of the, shoot, I lost my, an order of conditions was deferred on the NOI until NHESP came back with, in part, their order being registered at the Registry of Deeds. That concurrence happened, as I said, in July of 19. The letter that I'm talking about from NHESP, which you have a copy of, was dated, I believe, January 20th of 2020. Okay, so if you bear with me, I'm gonna share some stuff with you, and hopefully this works well. Host disabled screen sharing. What?
That would be Jerry. He's driving, right?
Harley, are you there? Jerry. Hardly. This is not.
You can give him a direct message, maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a chat. So, can everyone see this?
Yes.
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 So this is a notice of intent. I'm not going to go through it. There's 15 pages or 22 pages. I'm not going to go through every page. What I would like to show you, though, is the more pertinent detail that's applicable. You don't need to see that. So this is the project narrative, and just if you could all take 30 seconds and just skim through this. I know that you've seen this before, but I'm just asking you to do it again. And this isn't, you know, the mitigation measures themselves are not really out of the ordinary in terms of the type of project that it is, and the restoration that they want to do out there.
So we're restoring a historical grade, 3-to-1, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And what's to prevent that from simply eroding away? How are they revegetating?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting excited.
I know you are. You're a plant guy. I get that. These are site photographs taken back a couple years. You can see this is where, you know, the gravel extraction has been going on historically. So in effect, you're going to have your groundwater levels are going to be, you know, substantially higher in places than in other places. And as an aside, the groundwater elevation as such is significantly higher where the isolated vegetated wetland is, only because of excavation over a period of time. And that area gets annually revegetated by what I would deem to be, you know, migratory species, migratory seeds, bird droppings, any mammals passing through there. Because again, the water table there, I'm sorry, is extremely low. And I believe
Do you mean that it's low, Dave, or do you mean that
It's high. I apologize. No, you're right. Thank you. High.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting me. So this is a couple years ago. Now, bear with me a moment.
Hear any of what the
Can anyone see that?
Not yet.
All right. Well, for some reason, my Zoom has just crashed partially. All right. Here I am. So this is from Mass Oliver GIS, and I apologize for the lack of quality in this, but you can see this dark line here and these yellow grids. That's defined as endangered. It's under national heritage, and this is an area where potentially or actually endangered species exist. West Meadow Road, if you see my cursor, is up here. There's an isolated vegetated wetland right in here, right within NHESP. And there's also another one, I believe, back in here. It's well beyond any other resource areas. You can see this is a vegetated wetland down here. Buffer zone, 100 feet out. Here's Walker Brook, 200 feet out. There's an intermittent stream that doesn't show up really that well on here, but that's well beyond 100 feet of the isolated pieces that we're referring to. Still trying to get another image up here. Bear with me, please. I'm back. All right. So this was what I had just shown you. I just wanted you to get a good sense of the property. It's 80 acres. There's multiple resource areas in the back here. The areas that we're talking about are up in this quadrant here. the letter from January 2020, which the commissioners have, which in effect outlines the requirements that Fish and Wildlife have under the auspices of NHESP. I'm just showing this for informational purposes. Now, Stan, I'll ride this out for you if you want me to. Do you want to take a moment and just discuss the findings that you had in this particular quadrant?
Sure, if you want to leave that, can you pan up a little bit? Yeah, right, that's pretty good. Or actually zoom in a little bit on to the right side, because that's the, on the plan, because that's the area that we're really talking about. All right, that's the area that, there's one other little area as you come in that's in the 100-foot wetland buffer, but there's a road between that area and the wetland, and that's just proposed to be restored. It's just an excavated bank that's going to be restored. And on the plan, we specified 3 different types of restoration, whether it's in the wetland or in the buffer zone or in the upland. Now, in this area in the back, this is probably the most convoluted and critical area. I was out there yesterday. It doesn't seem like anyone's been doing a whole lot out there. And I know they're supposed to be cleaning up the trash, but if they are, they're going pretty slow. But I guess that's irrelevant to our discussion here. So in that area in the back, there's three piles. There's 2 piles of loam and there's a pile of tailings or sorted stone that, in order to restore this area to a vegetative state and repair the slopes that are dangerous, those 3 piles of stuff have to be moved out of there. And that's our next step, is to file for an earth, it's called an earth excavation permit with the ZBA, and they'll dictate whether we remove it from the site or not. We still have to file with them because we're moving over, we're triggering the limits of what we can move. But to restore that area, those piles need to go to get that back to its original state and to stabilize the slopes. Now, there's an isolated wetland on the left of that blow up that through this whole process had been driven through and kind of disturbed. And I call it a historic wetland because it showed on a plan from about 2000, but I think it's basically a wetland that exists because they excavated pretty much down to groundwater. And when Dave and I were out there once last, I don't know, maybe a year ago or so, the area to the right of that's in the buffer zone, the areas that were excavated down to about groundwater were already revegetating with facultative stuff. So what Dave and I had discussed, and I think it's a good idea, but the commission will have to sign off on it, obviously, is get those piles out of there, stabilize the slopes, spread some of the loam in that area, be it in the disturbed wetland, in the buffer zone, or in the upland, and then just let it vegetate. There's enough seed there, there's enough everything that's just going to grow back to either a wetland or a buffer zone type vegetation. And once that's done, then I think everything that's in the commission's jurisdiction will pretty much be cleaned up, and you guys can kind of put this thing to bed and get it off your plate, because I know it's been lingering on there forever. And right now we're in the time of year where we can work natural heritage between October 15th and it's either March or April 15th, but they can do this work now without endangering any of the species that are out there, because they're all hibernating right now, or whatever turtles do. I don't think it's actually hibernating, but so that would be what we would like to focus, is to get that cleaned up. But we can't even do that till I've been kind of juggling a couple of balls in the air here. I haven't filed with the ZBA for the earth removal because we haven't had a meeting or discussed exactly what your preference is for us to clean this area up. So that's my suggestion, and I think Dave and I are close to being on the same page on how to clean that up. And we'd like to get that done so we can keep this project moving forward and get this whole thing cleaned up, because once it's cleaned up, Fish and Game is going to buy it. And it's about 90, I think it's about 94 acres that they're going to buy. And then it's going to be in the hands of the Commonwealth, and nothing will happen there. So I think they've worked out a good proposal with the state to buy it. They're going to sell one A&R lot up on West Meadow Road, and the rest is all going to go to the state. So that's my spiel on that, on how I think they should clean it up. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I don't ask the questions, I answer them.
Stan, if you could just take a moment, please, and talk about the large parcel, the 20,000 square foot parcel that we're referencing, and you have them defined as A, B, and C, and the particular seeding schedule or potential vegetation mix that's an option to what you've already discussed.
Right, there's that area that's got the hatching that I'm calling the historic wetland. That's 20,000 square feet, and the disturbed part of that would be restored with it's a wetland seed mix that's available from several places, but we usually specify New England wetland plants. So that would be restored with that seed mix. Now the area that's in the buffer zone, which is on the plans called Type B, that would be that's a conservation wildlife mix that was specking there. Then Type C is upland, and that's it's just a New England wetland plant roadside upland seed mix. So those three areas would get reseeded, as would there would be some reseed if there's another pile of stone that's there is kind of to the north, I guess, if you will, of that hatched area. That would get removed too, and that would get the same treatment as these other areas depending on its location.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
I can, John. Yep.
With regard to you indicated you needed to go to the ZBA for a material removal permit.
Yeah.
Is any of that material going to leave the property?
I think if the owners had their choice, they would prefer to sell some of that material to recoup some of their costs and their investment. But that decision ultimately will be up to the ZBA. And as you know, when something's filed with another board, the other boards get a chance to comment on that. So the commission would certainly get a chance to weigh in on what's happening on the property, and that would certainly impact the ZBA's decision.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, Stan, but
no, that's fine.
In my opinion, there's already been more than enough material that has gone down the road regarding this.
Down the road, literally.
Literally down.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So.
And while we can only comment on our jurisdiction, as a board member, I would strongly suggest that Conservation send a very strong letter to the Planning Board or the ZBA suggesting that no other material leave here. I think they've already made a substantial amount of money with regard to the amount of, not that it's any of my business, because it's not. But
John, I'm sorry. What you're saying, I respectfully don't think that it's a matter of our concern, the Conservation Commission's concern.
Well, it may not be, Dave, but I still have a right to my opinion. And my opinion is that this property has been raped long enough. And with regard to our jurisdiction, we do have the ability to have an outspoken opinion about it. Now, I don't see anything wrong with telling the ZBA or the planning board are the way we feel.
Well, that'll come up. We'll have an opportunity at some point when they file, because they do have to file with them just to do an earth moving process. When you move more than, I think it's 20,
It's only 20 yards. It's a small amount.
20 yards, you have to get a permit to move it.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a
Moving
problem.
it 10 feet or, so that's, right now, we're not talking about that right now because that's not before us. When that does come before us with a mandatory referral, we will let the zoning board and or the planning board know how we feel about it. And I would hope that they would go out and take a look at it themselves.
Right. I think what we're asking for with the notice of intent is permission to remove the piles that are in this buffer zone area and this jurisdictional area out of that area and be able to restore that area. That's all we're asking for right now.
And that's part of the order of conditions if the commission decides to go in that direction. It's also been confirmed that that is what NHESP demands as a part of the cleanup and overall site restoration, aside from what you're displaying here.
When I hear removal, it's a whole different aspect to the word removal as opposed to moving the material.
I think that if I can, John, I think the permit's it's called an earth excavation permit. It isn't necessarily for removal. It's to do any substantial movement of material on a site.
And I have no problem with that.
So the proposal is actually to remove material from that area and put it, still keep it on the property, but to remove it from that area to regrade it to get to that restoration.
That's what we're proposing with the notice of intent is to
Karen, ma'am,
move that out of that area and clean that area up.
Jim?
And I think that's very suitable. Totally get it. And, but it doesn't need to go to Boston, doesn't it can stay right there.
And when the filing with the ZBA gets made, the commission can weigh in at that time.
Yep.
And voice their significant concerns about the condition of the site.
Karen?
Yes, Jim?
Food for thought. I have to agree with John in a big way. I realize some of this is out of our jurisdiction, but to remove the stuff from the wetlands and relocate it on the same site, because there are a bunch of holes that were dug there, so there's ample opportunity to leave that material right there and rectify all the holes where everything has been buried. I'm just saying that I'm in favor with John, and I know it's not time to make that decision, but it's food for thought for the commission.
To be clear, though, let me just make myself crystal clear. As defined in the NOI and as discussed with NHESP, none of the soil will be removed around the area, in particular around the isolated vegetated wetland. That will not be removed, that will be reused. What I'm concerned about, though, is what John had just asked about. He was making inferences to income and money and removing material and the totality of that area, if I heard you correctly. Is that correct, John?
I don't feel.
I'm asking you, did I interpret what you said correctly? I understand that the area around the area, I understand the jurisdictional area that we're discussing right now. We're trying to maintain the integrity the best we can with the materials that we have in there. It would be a crime to take the materials out of there. I just want to be clear that you were referring to the totality of earth removal, going down, leaving that premises, going down the roads, and the people making income on it.
Well, Stan did mention that they wanted to try to sell some material in a hope to.
Well, that hasn't happened yet, though.
Right.
So, and again, if that is a proposal that they put forward, we still have the right for the mandatory referral to make our opinion voiced. So that's not part of tonight or part of this filing at this point. Or actually, it's not part of this filing to begin with.
That's correct.
This filing is to recreate that wetland, to move the piles to another spot on site where they'll probably use them for regrading the other slopes and create this wetland.
And back to Stan's point a moment ago, he went out there and observed a number of facultative plants in the area that have been naturally growing over time or since this had been degraded. Do those out there understand what a facultative plant is? And if not, say so, and I'll have Stan respond.
I don't.
Facultative plants would be something that has, pardon the pun, its roots in wetlands or close to wetlands. And a lot of times in disturbed areas, those plants will take over. And that's kind of what's happened here. There's a lot of sedges and reeds and stuff growing in that disturbed area, which are plants that you would typically find in or near a wetland.
Okay.
So, and that's the term is just facultative because they're very you'll find them other places too, but they're almost invasive, but they're native plants.
So then if you go back to what Stan's observations were, and the commission certainly had an opportunity to go back out there and cross-check what was observed. The question, or one of the questions that we have, is whether or not what was put together on the original plan in terms of areas A, B, and C, and the distribution of the type of vegetation and seed mix that would be used and or loamed in these areas as well, whether or not we adhere to that, the original plan, which was provided to us in the NOI back in January 19, or whether or not we take a visit out there and determine based on Stan's observations as well as the commission's observations whether or not nature is taking a reasonable course on its own. And do we want to disturb what is naturally occurring out there?
I'd like to ask Stan about the seating schedule, if I may.
Yeah, I mean, they would obviously plant at the appropriate time of year based on the manufacturer's recommendations and so forth. But basically, there's no set schedule. But if the manufacturer is going to recommend either planting it at a certain time of year or keeping it watered with probably some kind of straw mulch or something like that.
So it says that 6 inches of loam will be applied.
That's in the original proposal, but I think what Dave is saying, and I'm concurring with, is that nothing's been done there now, and this is already basically coming back as a wetland. So, and I don't really have a preference either way. We could do it either way, but I think Dave's point is, kind of in a way, let's not fix what ain't broke, because it seems to be coming back on its own. Although once we go in there and regrade it and move those piles, something's going to have to be done to stabilize that area. So I would imagine they would have to spread some kind of topsoil there, some kind of.
So traditionally, suppose that this hadn't begun reseeding, you would take that loam from an outside source. Is that right?
Or you would use some of the loam that's in those piles and
it's there,
and spread a 6-inch layer and then seed it.
Okay. And the New England mixes that you're talking about, is that just generally native, regionally native?
There's a company, it's New England Wetland Plants, and they have native seed mixes depending on where they'll be used. They have for restoration areas, roadside slopes. They have 8 or 10 different seed mixes depending on where they'll be used, and they're all a mixture of native seeds.
Okay, that's interesting.
I have a question, Stan, when you have a chance.
Yep.
Has anyone taken the time to calculate how many cubic yards of loam are in those piles?
I have not done that yet.
Well, I, for one, would like to know, and I'd also like to know how many cubic feet that's supposed to cover. And if you calculate it to 6 inches, I think you're going to fall short, but that's only a guess. But I'd like to know that in the proposal, so.
I will calculate that area, that the volume of those piles and get that information for you.
Thank you. 6 inches of loam over 10,000 square feet is a lot of loam.
I agree.
Yeah. I don't think it's there, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a farmer.
So the issue here is, it came back better than how it probably could have been recreated at this point.
Well, or equally as well, it came back as a wetland on its own. And that's completely due to its proximity to the water table.
Right.
Well, and that's what a wetland is. It's real close to the water table. That's why it's a wetland. So they inadvertently created a wetland there by doing the excavation. But we are gonna have to go into that area and disturb it because we have to remove that. We have to fix the slopes and move that material.
So having said that, does everybody want to take one more look at this? Go out and have a site walk just at this particular spot, because I know we haven't been paying attention to this spot as much as some of the other places where activity's been going on.
I'd like to see it.
That might not be a bad idea.
Anybody else?
I will just forewarn everybody that you have to walk out there now. There is an actual real lock on the gate now. I couldn't drive out there yesterday, so just saying.
Okay.
It's it took me 20 minutes to walk in and 20 minutes to walk out.
Can we get permission to unlock that?
I can ask. Yeah, I don't.
They should give us permission because I can't walk that. Ian can't walk.
I know that's why I'm saying that.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll try to get a key. I will ask the powers that be if we can get a key. And that's part of the problem too, is that the one sister that ended up having to take over because everybody else was not behaving properly. She lives in Barnesville, something down the Cape. So
doesn't one of them live out west though?
One lives in Michigan, one lives in Louisiana, and the one who's stirred the pot lives.
So in effect, over the last year and a half, we had multiple people associated with the trust, more or less taking control of it. And right now, Ann Rogers appears to be that individual.
But I will, why don't, let me find out what the availability of a key is. And then when I know that, then we can set up a time to meet out there and take a look at it.
That'd be good.
That would be real good.
Okay.
All right,
So,
I'll why not?
Okay. Can I get a motion to continue this to December 15th?
What's that date?
December 16th,
Motion to continue.
2 weeks from today. And can I get a second?
Second.
John Hussey, you in favor of this?
Yes.
Jim LaQueer, you in favor of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ann LaQueer, you in favor of this?
Yes.
Dalton Wegman, are you in favor of this?
Yes.
Jennifer Eaton, are you in favor of this?
Yes.
And I'm in favor of this. All right, Stan.
Can I ask one question? Would it be better? What's the best time for everybody to do a site walk so that everybody can see it? Is it
Maybe on a weekend?
on a Saturday or?
Dalton, when do you work?
Well, recently it's been 6 to 7 days a week, but a Saturday or Sunday would be a little bit better.
Right. I'll coordinate it with Dave.
Okay.
Sunday.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Have a nice evening.
Take care.
Okay. So that brings us to 3.0. It should
Right.
be 3.3. 0 South Row Road, the land acquisition, ownership, and fee. Dave, you have something on this?
Just trying to sort my things out here. All right. All right. Okay. So several weeks ago, we got an inquiry from town administrator regarding 0 South Row Road. And for those of you that aren't aware of that area, it's sort of in the south, due south of 119. You can see that this, well, let me just back up. The town received an inquiry about the owner who inherited 42-acre parcel, which is landlocked. They inherited 42-acre parcel, I'm sorry. They have no interest in continuing in its ownership. And the attorneys hired have done some minor review as far as I know. I've not had much correspondence back and forth on this at all, other than the most recent information that was submitted to us, and we discussed ever so briefly, I believe, at the last hearing. The attorneys hired have stated that they have no knowledge of any frontage that's available or access to the parcel. That doesn't mean to say that there isn't, but that's what the attorneys, at least based on the detail that I have up to date, has told us. Additionally, as of today, there's no deed check of rights of way, and that has not been completed. The commission's been asked whether or not they have an interest in the property through a quote-unquote ownership and fee, unquote. In my simple way of thinking, a clarification has to be made in terms of the definition of ownership and fee, because there are multiple interpretations and definitions of that under English law, and I wasn't about to go down that road. And I wanted to define whether or not, if this is going to be a conservation restriction, based on what I had said previously about it being potentially ownership and fee, they may be mutually exclusive or separate entirely. If it's a restriction, then there's a lot of, it's going to take a long time to go through the process. We just went through it on Campbell Farm, and that took, goodness, 12 months at least. Baseline reports and a number of other state authorities have to become involved. So I guess back to my original point is that we have an owner who inherited a 42 parcel acre that wants to provide this piece of property to the commission and or the town, I'm not sure which, under an ownership and fee. So some points about the property in particular. The property, as you can see, is landlocked. Mm-hmm. Can the property be accessible to public or passive recreation? Are there any easements that we're not aware of? What are the costs, if any, associated with the acquisition of the property, if any? A wildlife corridor does exist from southeast to west, for sure. I mean, this is a significant corridor. It crosses over Witches Brook on the other side of South Row. Bixby Reservoir is right here. Bixby Brook flows down. Unfortunately, this doesn't show that, but this Bixby Brook flows, I believe, down this way into several tributaries, or not even intermittent streams, from what I understand, back along the base of this property. This one particular piece of property, though, does have just over an acre of freshwater emergent wetland. So, you know, there's some significant value to this from a wildlife corridor standpoint, for sure. Migratory mammals going, and reptiles, I'm sorry, in particular, going from west, we'll call it, to southeast, and vice versa. South Row, if you don't know, is not a terribly populated road. It's not a great deal of use, even though there is some modest development back in here.
Not this Tyler Road.
I just said there's several wetland complexes which exist south and west of the property.
We go down Tyler Road next time. It's right here.
You know, I'd like to look at the property. I don't know whether or not, or how we would get access to it. I guess through the owners, and I guess we would have to get permission from butters to get to it.
Who's going to buy that?
And there are a lot of abutters, so someone will say yes.
I would think so. It's outside of ACEC, and it's not in NHESP's area. This is on the Biomap 2, which is produced by NHESP, and basically under the definition of a critical natural landscape, inclusive of upland areas that buffer wetlands. And you can see where my cursor is. This is a small area here that comes into the property. In looking at other documents, it's difficult to tell what's on the ground. I mean, you know, doing aerials is one thing, but being, you know, boots on the ground is altogether different. Let me see if I can just share something else with you here, if you don't mind, if I have it available. All right. I apologize for my lack of coordination on this, but I am improving. All right, so this is another aerial. Again, I apologize for the lack of quality that's displayed here, but I'm going to do the best I can with what resource I have. So South Row Road, if you follow my cursor, goes down this way. It splits off to, I believe this is Turner Road over here. And this is Seaver Road, if I'm not mistaken. The parcel in particular, and unfortunately I can't transpose, is basically in the quadrant here. And I apologize for not having polygons available to you.
I have it up on Google Maps.
Thank you very much, Dalton. Can you share that? If not, no worries.
It would be a little bit difficult, and it may not give it justice. It's a little bit hard to see.
So I guess if I could go back, the property's landlocked. We don't know if there's accessibility to the public, what type of use this property would have. Are there costs associated with it? It is a wildlife corridor, no question about that. And there are several wetlands complexes that do exist on the property. And I'm not clear on what ownership and fee is. As I said, there are various definitions under various legal treaties, and I'm not going down that road. Any comments, questions, observations?
Yes.
Please. And if I can't, we'll certainly get those answers for you.
So so my interpretation is this is a parcel of land that the landowner is paying taxes to our town for that is completely unusable to them.
Correct.
Okay. So that's like indentured servitude almost.
You said it, not me.
There's a lot of value for our town potentially. But I am sensitive to the idea of paying taxes on land that you can't even recreate on at a minimum. And there is value for us. My thought is it would, it would be good if we could secure some sort of way to check in on it. Maybe not just, if we can have something that's written in permanence so that we can check in on it. There are many landowners abutting that. I feel like that's a reasonable thing. It's not an invasive thing to go in and look there, but it's a lot of land.
It is. It's a significant parcel, and it does have some value. There's no question about it.
Yes. If I can intervene, I can give you a little history on that property.
Please.
If you go back to the map and you look on Tyler Road, you're going to see to the left side of the screen a right-of-way that goes back out to the parcel all the way to the left, to the large parcel. That was purchased by P.J. Keating back in the 50s and early 60s, and they were going to put a crushing plant out there and open a quarry. And everybody on Tyler Road opposed it and did not allow that to happen. And that right-of-way is the only access to three parcels of land out there.
But didn't that right-of-way correspond to a separate parcel?
It did. It's a different parcel, but there's three parcels altogether that one right-of-way would actually carry.
Okay.
If you could bring up that map again, Dave. Okay, go down to the left corner, right where your arrow is. There's a little slot right there. That's the right-of-way that goes into that big parcel where Keating was going to buy, and that bounces off of the other two that are landlocked.
If you look at 76 Tyler Road, between 76 and 46, you'll see, there you are, Dave, you got it. That whole bit out there is all 0 South Row. That whole area.
Yeah, that was all bought by Keating's, and they got denied putting a plant out there. They were going to put a quarry in there.
So do the Keatings still own this that you know, Jim?
I would believe they do, but I have no proof of it.
Sure.
Is this landowner interested in making a very fair price of $0?
This is something that could be pursued because there's history here that I'm aware of, and I know what happened to that parcel. If you drive down Tyler Road, that's all blocked off. They got a big gate down there, trees laid across the road. It was paved when they started the process. They did pave it.
But for the parcel that we're discussing, do they want to donate it to the town? Can it cost us $0?
Well, that's the question. One of the questions that I have, Dalton.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know the mechanics of the donation as such.
Okay, so I know some history on this particular parcel. And actually, I see Veronica's out there. I'd really like for Veronica to chime in because she seems to be all for the town taking it, or accepting it, I should say. Veronica, are you out there? Do you want to chime in on this one?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
This parcel, what I saw from Jim Kreidler was that it was being offered for $0, as Dalton put it, a very reasonable price to the town. I know that it's being offered to others not for $0. I think it's a parcel of interest, and if it's coming to us for free, and they're by state law, landlocked parcels have to have access through the parcels from which they were cut off. And so there should be, if what Jim says, so thank you, Jim, I didn't know about the crushing plant out there. This is more than likely the access. And if we did a deed search, I'll bet we could see that this is the access to this parcel and this parcel. That's correct. Because they're both landlocked.
Actually, that's not the legal access from that. It was cut off of one of the properties on South Row Road.
One of these.
Yeah, one of those three.
Okay, then the access, there should be access through one of those somehow. Because it's illegal in Massachusetts to have landlocked, totally landlocked.
When that was cut off, it was probably before that took place, so.
I'm going to agree with you, Karen.
I'm
going to agree with you. That was probably well before that zoning went into effect for the state. We have to find out when that was put into effect, the zoning bylaw.
Right.
You get a lot of parcels that don't have any frontage. You can't.
Oh yeah, there are a lot, but there should be access through where it was cut off. Again, time-wise, I don't know.
Yeah.
But in any event, it is landlocked, but that doesn't mean that this piece couldn't become available at some point. And it would be nice to have this. It's not in the ACEC. It's not super wet. And if it's being given to us, I think it's worth, well, I already voiced on the Board of Selectmen, I thought it was worth holding on to if it's being given to us.
My understanding was that you thought that it could be developed.
Pardon me?
My understanding was that you thought it could be developed into something either solar or elderly housing or something of that neighborhood.
In the future, it could be. I mean, it's a good piece of property.
Well, that having been said, in the 90s, subdivision was proposed on that parcel. The parcel on South Row Road, that landowner and, oh wait, actually it wasn't South Row.
It was off of Emery, I believe.
It was Emery, and it was going to cut through to Tyler. And there were three landowners were going to get together, and they proposed a subdivision, and that was denied. It was denied by the Conservation Commission, it was denied by the Zoning Board, and it was denied by the Planning Commission, I believe. I know the Commission denied that. And it was denied because of wetlands crossings. So
can
I don't see how the town, excuse me, can take and hopefully develop a parcel that was already denied the use of.
Well,
that's my biggest problem.
Okay. Obviously, a parcel that's been denied could be developed in the future. So that's not the topic. The topic is it worth holding on to this? But is it worth the town holding on to this with the possibility that, and I'm not looking at a housing development on this, although I know that the Housing Authority is always looking for parcels that they could put, whether it's 55 and over or whatever on. But if the town were to own it, there are possibilities, and this probably isn't something that's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe we just want to keep it as open space for a wildlife corridor because that's how it's functioning now. But
I don't think there's any reason why we wouldn't want it. There's nothing that's going to be detrimental to the town. And like Veronica said, it's quality open space. So, I mean, who knows what might happen in the future with regard to the Keating property, as Jim had indicated, the right of way there, and it's connected to that.
This part,
I think it's a win-win for the town.
May I have the floor again, Karen?
What?
May I have the floor again? Down on the, Dave, if you can go to 100, down the bottom center of the map, that's 100 right there.
Yep.
Okay, that's it. Okay, now go to Tyler Road. Tyler Road's right beside that. Now push her up to the right, a little bit right there. Whoop, stop, back up. Right there, a little bit farther back, there's a cart road that is that frontage that way back when we had a lady that was on the Board of Health that passed away. I can't remember her name. A blonde. She was living on the Board of Health. Michelle Cannon. Thank you, hon. She wanted to take that piece of land, that next piece of land, and come out back on Emery Road and put in a bunch of houses in there, subdivided. And she's requesting 2 houses on a septic system, which we would not allow. and then that got squashed when she couldn't get the two houses per septic system. So that's another access right there. So there's a lot of stuff to do research on in this little area to make sure that what we're going to do is in the best interest.
Anytime the town can get their hands on 40 plus acres of land,
Yeah, well,
I don't see how that can be anything but good,
I agree.
especially at the right price, which is, I guess,
$0,
$0, right?
And
take that back as conservation land. That's going to squash any plans at all that somebody is going to have with those other parts.
and how would we reasonably secure permanent access to go in and evaluate?
Say that again, please.
Is there a way
Say
that
it again.
is there a way that we can secure permanent access so that we can go and evaluate?
I imagine talking to the right people through Dave we can, because there's access on the bad corner right there in Tyler Road. And we were doing another one. It was number, well, they're over to, up to 210, and that real funky line that we went 500-600 feet out in the woods for that septic system, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right there at the corner of South Road. And
Right there, yeah, you just had it, Dave. Up one more. Up one more.
It's
Right
right
there,
here.
that's the piece. And this is,
That's good. Well, it appears then, from what I'm hearing from you folks, is that there are potential easements.
yeah, there's
or
got to be
access
some
points.
research done on this. We
One-
can't make this decision right now.
No, obviously. One,
Yeah.
two, and I think that there was another one.
Yeah, you can see the road if you go down Tyler Road. Right where you are, there's still a dirt road that goes in there.
So there's potential access points here. How does the commission feel about this? You know, contingent upon.
still there. Wasn't there, the commission could take it with the conservation restriction. If you don't take it with the conservation restriction, then it has to go to town meeting for the town to accept it.
If you can't put a conservation restriction on a prop and hold that conservation restriction on a property that you also own the fee. So a conservation restriction doesn't make a lot of sense in this case unless the original property owners are holding the property. Similar to Campbell Road, where they hold the fee, you hold the CR. So I'm not sure how that would work. And if it's property and fee to the town, which is what it should be, it does have to go before town meeting to be accepted.
So Veronica, if I could just ask you a question. So ownership and fee would go back to the town as being the responsible party for it, and it would not be, there would be no conservation restriction on it.
That is correct, unless we choose to
Do a
put one
restriction.
on.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, as you know, takes a significant amount of time, starting, with the baseline report.
It takes about a year to
Right.
get a conservation restriction reviewed and to final signatures right now. So in any event, yeah, I know that, but we could, it needs, Jim's right, it needs some research. There needs to be some title work done on this to see where the access points are. Anyway, I think it's worth the town. If it is truly $0 to the town, it's worth doing that work to investigate and have the town take it. It's not in the ACC. It's not priority habitat. It's good land, is what it comes down to. And I don't know the use of it in the future, but
Intrinsic.
yeah, I think we should hold the fee on this if in fact we can.
That could definitely be turned into one hell of a solar panel.
It could be, and it's out of the view of the general public, which is kind of nice.
Is that
So,
what we want, though? Is a solar development?
Not necessarily, but maybe. I mean, I
You
don't.
could take a portion of that, and that would service all those houses.
Well, this is true. Anyway, so there we go. But
For the purpose of this being on our agenda, I guess I'm kind of confused now because it doesn't look like the Conservation Commission is going to end up owning this. So that's
well,
why
you
maybe-
may. If the you may. It
I
depends.
mean, obviously, there's a great deal of research and additional work that has to be put into this.
Right,
I
but
think, but I think what you're trying to find out from the commission is whether or not ostensibly they have an interest here in proceeding with further investigation to find out whether or not, how it's going to fall out, either through ownership and fee or it's going to have a restriction.
The Board of Selectmen
Because-
thought it was a good idea to check in with all the boards, to check in with the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, to see what people thought about it before, instead of just saying, yeah, let's take it, So it does require a little more thought. But my fear is that if we don't act, they'll just, offer it to someone else who's going to pay them actual money for it, even though it's landlocked.
One of the abutters could
And
buy
then-
that parcel.
Correct. So I don't know. It's just a thought. But we wanted the Conservation Commission opinion.
With some real research and find out what's going on there, we can have consideration to it, in my opinion.
It definitely needs more research, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So, all right. I have to go to an energy meeting at 7:30. So I'm going to click out here unless
you
there's
very
other
much.
questions that
you.
I
Oh,
can
that
help
was
with.
great. Thank you.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I would be disappointed if that ended up becoming a solar installation.
Yeah. I'm not saying the whole acreage, just about 10 acres of it is all you need. Not
All
probably.
right. Well,
It's never going to happen.
No, probably not. Anyway.
You have to have three-phase wire
Right.
out at the street. If it's a mile away, it's $1 million.
that makes me feel better, John. Thank you.
Well,
That's why they call it Zoom meeting.
the only place they put solar fields is with three-phase going, have a three-phase line right down the street.
Okay, so on to the agenda. All right, 4.0, correspondence. 4.1, we have a letter from the EGO's office dated 11/17/20, notifying that they are reviewing the open meeting law complaint filed by Joan Savoy on 10/8/20 and 10/14/20. And 4.2 is a response from Joan Savoy to the AGO's office about that dated 11/17/20. Items for discussion at the next meeting would be 59 West Meadow Road.
Karen, is
Yep.
this 4.1 and 4.2 thing, is this done?
No.
Like, do we just have to speak it aloud for the meeting and then that's it? Or, I mean, is this done? Is it over? Can it be over?
It's not going to be over till the AGO sings.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, that's the way it goes, and it's just gonna, once they make a determination, then it will be over. Anything else for the next meeting?
Yeah, Karen, I think I may have failed to put something on there that I should put on there. The tree hunt, did I not put that on the agenda?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's on there, 3.4.
Okay,
You skipped
sorry.
it.
What?
3.4, you
3.4.
skipped.
Or tree hunt.
Guess what? I don't have a 3.4.
Well, what is tree hunt?
So basically,
The seeds to plant and you hunt them down.
Yeah.
we got a request.
Actually, you got that link that I sent you. Would you send that to everybody? So what the, I don't even know who put this on. It's Karen Clement. She does a lot of organizations for the town, and they did they put forth a tree hunt. And someone goes out and decorates a tree on a parcel of land, whether it's our conservation land, the land trust land, other properties around town. And it's designed to get people to go out, get some exercise, and familiarize themselves with our open space. So that started December 1st, and there's a link that Dave's going to send you to go out and try to find the trees that are on the different properties.
That sounds fantastic.
So if you find it, can you cut it down?
Oh man.
It's oak.
Take a picture of it.
If you find it, you take it home.
There you go.
And I think they want you to post the tree on social media or something like that, and which that's out of my purview. So we thought it was a good idea. Gets people out, fresh air, doing something different, and hopefully getting to learn what Townsend has for open space. Anything else with that, Dave?
No, I think you spot on.
Great. Okay, back to 5.0. We've got 59 West Meadow. Anything else?
0 Main Street.
Yep.
I expect at some point we're going to be looking at those South Row properties that Jim was referring to a moment ago when we were discussing the donation, the piece of property that's just on the north side of Emory.
When that comes in, will you ask them for full-size plans on that? Because that's got a lot on it.
Yes, I agree.
So,
it does. It's going to have to, I think, maybe 2 different NOIs for 2 different jurisdictional areas. I don't really quite understand the method that these consultants are going through, but it's been arduous for them, no doubt. It's been 3 years.
Okay. And then we're at 6.0, advertisements and conferences. None. 7.0, next meeting tentatively December 16th, 2020 at 6 p.m.
Motion to adjourn.
You didn't even let me say.
Had to be you, Karen.
Can I get a second to adjourn at 7:33?
Second.
All right, John Hussey, are you in favor of this?
Aye.
Jim LeQueer, are you in favor?
Aye.
Ann LeQueer, are you in favor of this? Dalton Wegman, are you in favor of this?
Before I say, when's the next time we'll be meeting?
16th of December.
Oh, okay. So I don't need to say Merry Christmas yet. Then, yes, I'm for adjourning. Yes.
Okay, Jennifer Eaton, are you for adjourning?
Yes.
And I am certainly in favor of it. Thank you all. It's been a good meeting.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Take care. Hey, Rhonda. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Rhonda.